Hello students, in the series of lectures in the subject VLSI technology, today we are discussing vapor phase epitaxy. Okay, this is unit 2 epitaxy. In the first lecture of this epitaxy, we discussed molecular beam epitaxy. Okay, so let's start our discussion. So what is basically epitaxy is that I have already discussed in my first lecture. Okay, now for the revision point of view, so whatever uh, we get a silicon ingot from say scissored process, okay, it is cut into slices by diamond saw, okay, and following that we polish these wafers, okay, and lapping process are also there, okay, so to remove surface damages, okay. So this is basically known as silicon shaping. So after this silicon shaping, whatever product we get, it is the starting material, okay, of which semiconductor devices are made. Okay. So once you have this silicon wafer, okay, after goes through silicon shaping processes, okay, and cleaning processes, we have the starting material on which various devices can be fabricated. Now, in many applications, these wafers, or you can say the substrates, basically serves as the mechanical support, and onto the substrate, one or more layers of materials are grown. Okay, this is known as epitaxy. So epitaxy is basically the process which signify the growth of layers onto the substrate. Okay. So in previous lecture, we discussed molecular beam epitaxy, and we discussed various advantages of molecular beam epitaxy along with the complexity that was involved in the design of molecular beam epitaxy system. Okay. So now in this lecture, we are going to discuss a very important type of epitaxy that is known as vapor phase epitaxy. Okay. So, what is the basic concept behind vapor phase epitaxy, that is also called VPE? So, the basic idea is that in VPE there is a transport of constituents. Okay, what are those constituents from which epitaxial layer is to be grown? Okay, so in this vapor phase epitaxy, there is a transport of epitaxial layer constituents. Okay, so the constituents may be silicon, germanium, dopants, etc. Okay, in the form of one or more volatile compounds. Okay, to the substrate. So here, what is done? Whatever constituents from which we want to grow the epitaxial layer, those constituents are in the form of a volatile compounds. Okay, so these constituents uh, are supplied onto the substrate where they react with the substrate, and accordingly we get the epitaxial layer onto the substrate. Okay, so basic idea is that in this diagram you can see that we have a reactant gas flow here. Okay, and we have this sample substrate. This is the substrate onto which we want to grow the epitaxial layer. Okay, this is basically the stand on which these samples are placed. This is commonly known as susceptor. Okay, so there is a gas, okay, in the form of volatile compounds. Okay, so whatever constituents we want to deposit onto that substrate, those are in this gas flow. Okay, so here we use a carrier gas along with the constituents from which epitaxial layer is to be grown. So this gas is flown in the chamber, okay, and here it reacts with the sample surface, and accordingly epitaxial layer is grown. So this is the very basic idea behind vapor phase epitaxy. Okay, so vapor phase epitaxy can be carried out at atmospheric pressure. Okay, remember in case of molecular beam epitaxy, whatever system we were using in molecular beam epitaxy, the first requirement was that we needed to create a ultra high vacuum. Okay, ultra high vacuum was needed to be created in case of molecular beam epitaxy. So of the range of 10 raised to the minus 8 to 10 raised to the minus 12 torr pressure we need to create. Okay, this much is small pressure. Okay, so we were using two pumps simultaneously in that case. So that process was very hectic and very time consuming. Okay, and very costlier process was that. So there is nothing like that in vapor phase epitaxy. Here we use, here we carried out these processes at atmospheric pressure. Okay, so it can be carried out at atmospheric pressure. So complexity is very much reduced by using vapor phase epitaxy. That's why it is widely used for silicon and gallium arsenide. Okay. Now, one common term we generally use is CVD, that is chemical vapor deposition. So, chemical vapor deposition is a more generic term of vapor phase epitaxy. Okay, because it is not limited to single crystal growth. So, if we use CVD, if we say chemical vapor deposition, then uh, the epitaxial layer that we are growing onto the substrate, that is not necessarily only single crystal, it may be polycrystalline as well. Okay, any material that you are growing onto the substrate, it comes under vapor phase deposition. But if we talk about vapor phase epitaxy, VPE, then we are strictly depositing single crystal, okay, material onto the substrate. Okay, so we can say that CVC is basically the generic term of uh, vapor phase epitaxy. Okay. Now, whatever reactants we are use for vapor phase epitaxy, they must be available in ultra high purity form. Okay. So hydrogen gas is basically used as a vapor transport medium. So here gas flow, in this gas flow, hydrogen gas is being used as a carrier. Okay, and onto this carrier some constituents are placed, okay, in the vapor phase, and these are transported. Okay, solid reactants can also be used. Okay, but these solid reactants should be preheated, okay, so that they will be converted into vapor phase. Okay, so this is the basic idea behind your vapor phase epitaxy. Okay, so here in this diagram you can see that there are certain aspects which need to be discussed before strictly going into vapor phase epitaxy, and these physical aspects are basically like that. So suppose there is a glass flow here. So here you can see the layer by layer flow of the gas, okay, over the sample, and this is basically the laminar flow. This is the gas flow, okay, and this gas flow is strictly laminar flow. So laminar flow is needed to be maintained, okay, in case of vapor phase epitaxy. Okay, we do not want to create the turbulent flow. Okay, we want to create the laminar flow. So whatever formula that is used to make sure that this is the laminar flow of gas, The formula is Reynolds number. Okay, so Reynolds number is defined as the dV rho upon mu. So D is, what is D? So whatever gas is flowing, these gases are flown in the pipes. Okay, so D is the diameter of that pipe, V is the velocity along the pipe, rho is the fluid density. In this case, this is gas. Mu is the absolute viscosity of fluid, or you can say it in this case it is also a gas. Okay, so by this formula we calculate the Reynolds number. If the Reynolds number is greater than 2000, that is a turbulent flow. That is not required. It is not required in vapor phase epitaxy. What we required is laminar flow, and it happens when Reynolds number is less than 2000. But in case of vapor phase epitaxy, Reynolds number is maintained at around 400 to 500. So strictly that is a laminar flow. Okay. Now, one more thing, one more physical aspect we need to consider that. What is that? Let's say, let's talk about the bottom layer. Okay. Let's talk about this bottom layer. Okay. This bottom layer is known as stagnant layer. Okay. This layer is also known as boundary layer. This is the layer which is very close to the sample. Okay. So here you can see that in case of laminar flow, you would know that the velocity of this layer of gas flow at this layer, that will be zero. And as we are moving upward, velocity increases. So here velocity is zero. Okay. Here velocity is zero. Okay. Now if the velocity is zero, what will happen? This is the question. If the velocity of gas flow is almost zero near to the sample, okay, so what will happen? Okay, so whatever constituents are there in the gas flow, okay, they are not moving. Okay, I think it should be clear, because whatever constituents are there in this layer, that will not move, or will move with very small velocity. Okay, very small velocity. So they will not be properly distributed onto the sample. Okay, so this is the layer that is called stagnant layer or boundary layer. So there are certain problems that are associated with. So we need to discuss the thickness of this boundary layer. So what is the thickness of this boundary layer? There is another formula for that. So the width of boundary layer or stagnant layer is given by square root of dx upon Reynolds number. Okay. What is x? X is basically the distance along the chamber. Okay. X is basically the distance along the chamber. So this is your chamber and this is x. X is distance along the chamber. Okay. So you can easily see that y is square root of dx upon nr. Okay. So if I put the value of Reynolds number here, what I get is square root of x mu upon v rho. Okay. So as we move along the chamber from left to right side, then you can see that the width of boundary layer is increasing. Okay. So now if width of boundary layer is increasing as we move along the chamber, okay, then width of boundary layer here is less, but here the width of boundary layer is very much. So the growth of epitaxial layer onto the substrate, growth rate, that will be different. Okay, here growth rate will be high, here growth rate will be low. Okay, this is called as the boundary layer problem. This is your boundary layer problem that occurs in vapor phase epitaxy. So what we need to do? Okay, what we need to do? So we need uh, to control the thickness of this boundary layer. So how you will control the thickness of this boundary layer? So if you see that Y is square root of x mu upon v rho. Okay. Mu is basically the viscosity, rho is the density. Here you cannot do anything in this case. So what you can control? You can control the flow of gas, speed, velocity of gas. So if you increase the velocity of gas here, so you can see that the width of the boundary layer will be decreased. Okay, so by this way you can control the flow of gas. You can control the width of the stagnant layer by controlling the velocity of gas. Okay, so here this is one point that we get. Now we define the flux. Okay, so flux is basically defined as minus of d upon y and g minus nf. D is basically diffusion constant. Y is nothing but the thickness of boundary layer. Okay. So we need to maintain the flux as high as possible. So in order to do this, if you want to maintain the flux as high as possible, then you need to reduce the thickness of stagnant layer. So how will you reduce the thickness of stagnant layer? By increasing the velocity of gas. Okay. So by this way you can do this. So what are this Ng? Ng is the concentration of reactant in gas. Ns is concentration of reactant on surface. Okay, so whatever constituents are there, so concentration of reactants in gas and concentration of reactant in the surface, okay, difference of that is proportional to the flux. Okay, so these things need to be considered here. Okay, now these were the some physical aspects that we were discussing. Now let's move forward. So VPE, vapor phase epitaxy, basically involves bringing the measured quantity of reactant, okay, and gases. Okay, we need to maintain that carrier gases to substrate reactant to produce epitaxial growth. Okay, now, epitaxial reactors, whatever reactions are carried out in vapor phase epitaxy, that are carried out in a chamber, or you can say the reactor. These are called as epitaxial reactors. So, epitaxial reactors have three sections. One is your gas delivery system, second is reaction chamber, and third is effluent handling system. Now, so whatever liquid reactants you are having, those are obtained in high purity stainless steel or quartz vessels. Okay. So gaseous reactants are provided in dilute form with ultra pure hydrogen as dilutant. Means ultra pure hydrogen is used as the uh, carrier gas. Okay. And the reactants from which your epitaxial layer is to be grown, that are mixed with that hydrogen gas. Okay, and this is the gas flow that is maintained. Okay, now this gas flow is measured by flow gauge consisting of vertical tapered tube with a spherical ball inside it. Okay, a widely accepted technique for gas flow monitoring is called as mass flow controller. Okay, so what is used in mass flow controller? Here the gas flow through a heated tube, gas is flown through a heated tube, causing a change in temperature across its end. Okay. Now, what are the reactors that are used for vapor phase epitaxy? So, three types of reactors are used for vapor phase epitaxy. First one is horizontal reactor. So, horizontal reactors, in horizontal reactors, there is horizontal quartz tube that is used. Okay, so here you can see that there is horizontal reactor. Okay, this is the horizontal reactor that we are using. This is the susceptor, or you can say the substrate holder, and onto that these samples are put here, onto which epitaxial layers are to be grown. Now this is the gas inlet. These gases are provided from this inlet. Okay, these gas consist of the reactants that will react to the substrate, and epitaxial layer will be grown onto the surface. Now, if you see at this diagram that there is a slight tilt of this structure. Why this slight tilt is there? So this tilt is provided to maintain the constant growth rate throughout the chamber. Why it is done? Because remember, in the previous case, if we use this type of stand, so gas flow were like this, and we also discussed the formula that as we go along the channel, thickness of the stagnant layer is increased. Now, here the thickness is more, here is it less, it is lesser. Okay, so if we tilt the susceptor, then the thickness of the stagnant layer will almost be constant throughout. So if the thickness of stagnant layer will be constant, then there will be uniform growth rate throughout. Okay. So the tilt angle is around 3 to 10 degree, that is maintained over here. Okay. So one more thing, by tilting that, gas flow velocity is also increased. Now if you increase the gas flow velocity, okay, so by increasing the gas flow velocity, thickness of the stagnant layer will also be reduced, okay, by similar formula that we discussed in the last slide. Okay, this is your horizontal reactor. So in this horizontal reactor, you can see that uh, gas flow is basically parallel to the surface of substrate. Gas flow is basically parallel to the surface of substrate, or you can say the wafer. Okay. RF coils are here used in case of heating. Now, the second type of reactor is vertical reactor. So, in vertical reactor, this is the gas inlet. This is your gas inlet. Okay. So, this gas basically, the flow of gas is basically perpendicular to the surface of wafer. Okay. So, that's why it is called vertical reactor. Here, gas flow is perpendicular to the substrate. Now we need to use venting in this case also. So venting is very important. Okay, so as to vent out some undesired gases. Okay, so this is your vertical reactor. In vertical reactor also we use RF coil in order to heat it. Now we use a barrel reactor. So what is this in barrel reactor? In barrel reactor, basically, what we use, the wafer holders is a drum shaped structure. It is a drum shaped structure. Slightly, the vertical wall of this structure is slightly tilted outward. Here you can see that for the same purpose that we discussed in horizontal reactor. Okay. Here the gas inlet is provided. Here also there are certain niches here onto which wafers are placed. Okay, so here gas flow over this surface. Okay, so you can see that here also the flow of gas is parallel to the surface of substrate. Okay, that's why this is the type of horizontal reactor. Okay, so here you can see this substrate holder is also rotated throughout, so there is uniformly growth rate throughout the wafers. So many wafers can be many epitaxial layers on many wafers can be simultaneously grown by this method. Okay, and venting is also provided here. Here, for the heating point of view, radiant reactors are used. Okay, so these are three types of reactors that are used in vapor phase epitaxy. Now, we will discuss the phase epitaxy process for silicon. Okay, for silicon, now we need to discuss the vapor phase epitaxy process. So, what are the reactants that are used for vapor phase epitaxy of silicon? So, those reactants are basically chlorosilane that we use. So, chlorosilane basically are SiCl4, SiSCl3, SiS2Cl3. These all chlorosilane can be used along with hydrogen. Okay, so hydrogen is basically your carrier gas onto which these substituents constituents are placed, okay, in vapor phase, and by reaction we get silicon deposited onto the substrate. So these are the reactions that are involved. Okay, so these are basically bidirectional reactions. Okay, all reactions are bidirectional, in this case reversible reactions. So SiCl4 reacts with hydrogen and it form trichlorosilane gas, okay, along with hydrochloric acid. Again, this HiHCl3 reacts with hydrogen and we get SiS2Cl2. This SiS2Cl2 is decomposed in SiCl2. Okay. This SiSCl3 will also be decomposed in SiCl2. So basically, these three reactants, all the three reactants will be decomposed in SiCl2. So SiCl2 is the product, okay, that reacts with the surface of the wafer. Okay, so when SiCl2 reacts with the surface of wafer, okay, so the surface reaction you can see here, when this gases goes to the surface of the substrate, then this reaction takes place. Here you can easily see that silicon is deposited onto the substrate. Okay, and again we get SiCl4 that is again recycled, and again it recycled and mixed with the hydrogen gas that is flowing inside the chamber. Okay, so this is the final reaction, this is the overall reaction that takes place. SiCl4 reacts with hydrogen to give silicon and hydrochloric acid. Okay, so you can see that hydrochloric acid is formed everywhere in the reactions. Okay, so these are all intermediate reactions that are formed here. So first reaction was SiCl4 was reacting with hydrogen. Okay, this is the first reaction, and overall reaction is SiCl4 reacts with hydrogen to form silicon and HCl. So hydrochloric acid is a very harmful uh, uh, constituent that is formed by this reaction. So it need to be venting. It need to be vent. So venting is very important in case of vapor phase epitaxy process. Okay, in order to remove this HCl. Okay, so here in this reaction, in this overall reaction, you can see that uh, these all reactions are basically reversible reactions. Okay, so if the reaction takes place from left to right direction, then the silicon is deposited on the substrate. If the reaction takes place from right to left direction, then the substrate is etched. There is etching that takes place onto the substrate and some material is removed from the substrate. So if the reaction goes backward, there is etching. If the reaction goes forward, there is deposition of the epitaxial layer. So how it is done? It is controlled. It is controlled by the mole fraction of SiCl4 in hydrogen. Okay, so this is the graph that you can see. This is the mole fraction of SiCl4 in hydrogen. So if the mole fraction of SiCl4 in hydrogen is increased from left to right, so here you can see that the deposition of silicon in micrometer per minute is shown here. So starting, as the mole fraction is increased, the deposition of silicon is also increased. Okay, and up to this point, you get the single crystal deposition onto the substrate that you want in vapor phase epitaxy. Okay. Now, if that is a CVD process, then polysilicon deposition can also occur. So, if you maintain the mole fraction up to this point, you will get single crystal and polysilicon deposition onto the substrate. As the mole fraction reaches this point, so here mole fraction of SiCl4 in hydrogen is high. So in that case, reverse reaction will take place, and in spite of uh, deposition, etching will be there onto the substrate. So etching will be there after this particular uh, mole fraction of SiCl4. Okay, so it depends upon us whether we want epitaxial layer growth or we want etching. Okay, now uh, if we don't want to use SiCl4, okay, and these chlorosilane, if we don't want to use these, we can use another method by using silane, SiH4. Okay, so silane basically is decomposed into SiH2 plus hydrogen. Okay, so HIS2, the product of the reaction in previous HIS2, that breaks down rapidly above 800 degrees centigrade, and SiH4 is decomposed into silicon, and this silicon is deposited onto the substrate. Okay, so two reactions are involved in here. So here you can see that HCl is absent here. Okay, so venting is avoided here. Okay, so venting we were using in case of vapor phase epitaxy of silicon. Okay, if we use the constituents as chlorosilanes. Okay, now if we use only silane, then there won't be any need of venting. What are the disadvantage of the using silane? That is poor morphology, and SiH4 is more sensitive to oxidation. Oxidation is occurred in SiH4. Okay, so these are the chemical reactions that are involved in vapor phase epitaxy of silicons. Okay, now we need to do in situ etching before epitaxial growth. So before epitaxial growth, before the whole process that we discussed previous, we need to do in situ etching. In situ etching. In situ means on site etching. Okay, means in the chamber itself, you need to etch the substrate or the wafer before epitaxially growth. Okay, suppose that if you are using a substrate, okay, and you did not perform the etching process, okay, and immediately after silicon shaping, you are depositing the epitaxial layer. So what will happen? Certain contaminations, material impurities, dislocations will be there on the surface of the wafer. So you need to etch the substrate before epitaxial growth. Okay. So silicon wafers that are obtained from manufacturer, okay, these are mechanically lapped and polished as we discussed in silicon shaping to remove as much as possible regions of surface damage, all that. Okay, but in spite of that, after throughout cleaning, these slices are inserted into the reactor chambers, whatever reactor chamber that you are using, whether is it a horizontal reactor, vertical reactor, or barrel reactor. Okay, these are basically flushed for few minutes in dry hydrogen at temperature 1150 to 1200 degrees centigrade. Okay, so basically what is done with this, it basically reduces all traces of lattice oxides, okay, that may be formed while transferring slices or wafers into the reactor. Okay, when you are placing slices into the reactor, at that particular time those oxygen oxides can be precipitate onto the substrate. Okay, so for that purpose in situ etching is done. Okay, so after this anhydrous HCl that is diluted with hydrogen is introduced. So etching proceeds by conversion of silicon into SiCl4. That is the reverse reaction that takes place. Okay, another approach, we can use sulfur hexafluoride Okay, SF6 we can also use as a etchant gas. So sulfur hexachloride will react with your substrate surface of the wafer, and it will form SiS2 gas and SiF4. Okay, so etching is also done here. So in situ etching is very important in this case. So this is all about your vapor phase epitaxy of silicon. In the next lecture, we will discuss uh, what is autodoping and what are the certain defects that are present in epitaxy process. Okay.